Every viral dating video has one thing in common. The person making it is single, well, most of the time. Scroll through any platform right now and you'll see it. Women listing demands that read like a luxury car spec sheet. 6 feet, 6 figures, six-pack. Men making gotcha compilations catching women being hypocritical. People filming strangers on dates to mock them. Both sides racking up millions of views and nobody getting any closer to actually being loved. So what's going on? Why has the conversation between men and women become so toxic? And more importantly, is there a way out? Besides being ex-special forces, I'm also a Zen monk. And today I want to use the analogy of the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism to just give you an explanation of what's going on. Now, the first noble truth is that there is suffering in the world. Loneliness is at epidemic levels. The US Surgeon General called it a public health crisis. Young men are the loneliest demographic in the Western world. But young women aren't far behind. Rates of anxiety, depression, and reported dissatisfaction with dating have skyrocketed for both genders. People are hurting. That's the foundation of everything we're about to talk about. And recently, if you've seen the documentary The Manosphere with Louis Theroux, and if you're introspective enough to seriously or perceptive enough to really look at it, you realize that those people are all hurting and they're insecure and they're making up for it with a whole red pill manosphere bullshit scenario. But here's where it gets interesting and dark. That pain has become content. There's an entire economy built on your loneliness. Algorithms don't reward connection. They reward outrage. A woman calmly explaining what she values in a partner gets a few hundred views. A woman saying she won't date a man under 6'2" who makes less than $200,000 a year, millions. A man sharing about what he learned about building a good relationship, crickets. A man humiliating a woman on a podcast for a body count, viral. The content machine has figured out that lonely, frustrated people engage more when they're angry. So it feeds them anger. And both sides have taken the bait. On one side, you've got women performing a kind of narcissistic entitlement, demands that have nothing to do with genuine compatibility and everything to do with social media clout. On the other, you've got men building entire channels around exposing female hypocrisy, not to help anyone, but to win an argument with half the species. And in the middle, millions of ordinary people who just want someone to come home to. They're not making videos, they're watching them and getting more bitter by the day. So let's talk about the cause, and that brings us to the second noble truth in Buddhism. There is a cause of suffering. A monk once said something to me that I've never forgotten. Anger is the frustration of not having your needs met. Sit with that for a second. Every toxic dating video you've ever seen is someone telling you, without realizing it, I need connection and I don't know how to get it. Same on the manosphere. There's a well-established principle in psychology called frustration-aggression theory. It's simple. When a fundamental need is blocked for long enough, the emotional response shifts from sadness to anger. The pain turns outward. You stop asking, what's wrong with my approach? And start asking, what's wrong with them? I talked in an earlier video about how radicalization works, how young men who carried out horrific acts weren't born monsters. They were isolated, purposeless, and recruited by people who gave their pain a target. The same mechanic is at work here, just at a lower temperature. The manosphere gives men a target. Women are shallow, hypergamous, not worth your effort. The femisphere gives women a target. Men are trash, emotionally stunted, beneath your standards. Both sides are being recruited by content creators who profit from keeping them angry. And the tragedy is that the recruits don't realize they're being used. They think they're being educated. They think they're being empowered. But empowered people don't spend their evenings rage watching compilations of the opposite sex being terrible. Empowered people are out there living. The cause of this suffering isn't men. It isn't women. It's unmet need plus an algorithm that monetizes the pain of not belonging. Now, what's the truth underneath all this? Well, that brings us to the third noble truth. There is an end to suffering. So here's the part nobody in these videos will tell you. because it doesn't get clicks. What men and women actually want from each other is remarkably similar. Decades of cross-cultural research in evolutionary psychology and anthropology, studies spanning 37 countries consistently show the same thing. When you ask people what they genuinely value in a long-term partner, the answers converge. Kindness, humor, intelligence, dependability, mutual respect. Simple. Not 6 feet, not 6 figures, not a body count under 3. David Buss's landmark study across cultures found that both sexes rank kindness and understanding as the single most important trait in a mate. Not status, not beauty, kindness. Across every continent, every culture studied. Well, that doesn't mean that things like beauty aren't important. As I mentioned in other videos, beauty is very important, especially for short-term attraction. But kindness is much more highly valued for long-term. We are a pair bonding species. We evolved to seek and form deep attachments. The need for a partner isn't weakness. It's literally wired into us. Our ancestors survived not because the strongest individual won, but because pairs and groups cooperated, cared for each other, and built something together. That's our evolutionary inheritance. The loudest voices in the dating wars are statistical outliers. The women demanding a 666 man represents a tiny performative fringe. The man building a channel on female humiliation is not the norm. He's the loudest guy in the room. And as we discussed in my last video, the loudest guy in the room is rarely the leader. The actual research shows that most people, the quiet majority, want what humans have always wanted. Someone who sees them, someone who stays. The end of suffering isn't winning the argument against the other's gender. It's recognizing that the argument was never real. It was manufactured, and you were the product. Think about that. You were the product, or you are the product. So what's the path? The fourth noble truth, there is a path out of suffering. So what's this path forward? If you're someone who's been caught in this, and there's no shame in that, these algorithms are designed by the smartest engineers on the planet to keep you hooked. So here's where you start. First, recognize the anger for what it is. It's not strength. It's not clarity. It's pain wearing armor. That monk was right. It's unmet need. And you cannot meet a need you won't admit you have. If you're lonely, say it. If you want a partner, own it. That's not weakness. That's the first honest thing you've done in months. Second, audit your content diet. If the majority of what you consume about the opposite sex makes you feel contempt, you are being radicalized. Slowly, comfortably, but radicalized nonetheless. You wouldn't drink poison because it came in a nice glass. Stop consuming content that makes you worse at the thing you actually want, which is connecting with another human being. Third, stop performing and start building. The toxic dating content is all performance. It's theater. Real relationships aren't built on leverage, frame control, or having the upper hand. They're built on vulnerability, repair, and showing up consistently, even when it's unglamorous, especially when it's unglamorous. Fourth, get proximate. Put down the phone, join something, show up somewhere in person. Repeatedly, with no agenda other than being present. Every piece of research on relationship formation says the same thing. Proximity and repeated exposure are the foundations of connection. You will not algorithm your way to love. Think about how many people actually meet their partners at work. And why is that? Because they see each other every day and they gradually get to know about each other. Fifth, become someone worth choosing, not through status symbols or gym selfies, though there's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself, but through building a life that has meaning, purpose, and warmth, independent of a relationship. The paradox is that people who are most attractive to others are the ones who aren't desperately trying to attract anyone. They're too busy building something real. Now, the dating wars will keep raging. There's too much money in them to stop. But you don't have to be a soldier in someone else's content strategy. The monk's path was simple. Acknowledge the suffering, understand where it comes from, believe it can end, and walk the road that leads there. Every minute you spend watching someone else's outrage is a minute you're not building a life someone would want to share. Good luck.